got the. Yeah, after you, my
After
lord.
you, after you, after you,
No, after you,
after
after you, after you, after you. No, I do believe after you.
Oh, fuck's sake. Alright, so who's going now?
Hi guys, I'm Amesh,
And I'm Asiva.
and today we are reviewing "Smiling with No Teeth" by Genesis Owusu.
He is Ghanaian, immigrated to Australia at a young age.
He moved at like 2, right, or something.
Yeah, and just
Like
sort of
proper young.
lived in this very white area in Australia, basically. He's very young. He's only 22. His musical,
Practically a baby.
maybe. It's interesting because it's his first studio album, and most of it was actually recorded in 6 days.
Oh, damn.
No, so the way he did this was his manager made a band for him, and they went to this tiny room and just did 6 10-hour jam sessions back to back. And then he went through those 10-hour clips, picked the bits out he liked the most, and then fleshed them out into sort of 4 songs and then wrote to them.
That is like pure creativity. That's like such a pure vibe where it's just like.
I think that's why the album sounds kind of cohesive in terms of the instrumentation. It's got this quite organic, lively feel, but it also varies as well in tone quite wildly, but somehow still sticks together. It's his debut album, and the sounds of funk, neo-soul, experimental hip-hop, rock, sort of a punk rock attitude, they're all over this album, and everything between sort of like pop and R&B. It is a blend of all these styles, and it's a very ambitious concept album to come, as your first album. I think is pretty ambitious.
I think there's 2 dynamics in this album. So the initial one is where he kind of explores kind of thoughts of depression, right, or his journey with depression, and he uses this like metaphor like black dogs throughout. And then in the latter half there's this secondary dynamic that comes in, which is in regards to racism and fighting racism, and kind of like grabbing it by the neck and like addressing it and saying, yo, this is not okay. I would not be controlled by you.
I think it's interesting how he uses the concept of depression to build an album, and then brings in the second concept of racism and sort of weaves the 2 together, and then sort of tries to come to a conclusion with the concept as well. I think it doesn't
feel forced. Do you think it feels forced at all? It feels like
I think it feels very free flowing. I think it's very free flowing. I think if anything, I'm gonna get it stand out. I love this album. I love this album. It's so ambitious that sometimes it does falter a little bit, just because of what it's trying to do. In that sense, it can be a little bit messy at times in its execution. Sure. Not in the individual songs, more in just the piece as a whole. I think song to song, everything really is very, very polished and very clean.
He's purposely chosen big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And he's running really well with them, but sometimes he does trip up. And I think he trips up straight away. For me, he trips up straight away on the first track. So the first track, On the Move, is this kind of aggressive, evasive, like very alarming intro. Yeah. So explosive, and it kind of my mind goes to like fight or flight mentality is engaged.
Definitely interesting to say. It's very MC Ride. His vocal delivery is very Def Grips.
Literally like this very techie hip-hop sound.
Yeah, very distorted, compressed drums.
The distorted bass is nice on that though. Love the reverby kind of keys, and I really like the voice in the chorus, and like kind of reminds me of like early 2000s UK kind of like techno sound.
I thought he did like this.
But like when you get to these different portions, when he introduces these different kind of textures, I'm just like, oh, I like this, I like that, but I don't think they should be like in the same track together.
I personally thought it worked. It serves a purpose of an intro. Like it gives you a glimpse of things to come and gets you hyped.
But I think on that point though, I don't think it does that, because the rest of the album doesn't sound like that.
True, that's true. There are some parts that have that energy though, that punk rock energy.
Yeah, so you're exactly right on that point, and I totally resonate with that. So the energy, the punk, the aggressive punk rager kind of vibes there, but that sound that's established in the first track didn't float for me. But he uses this opportunity to introduce the metaphor for depression.
I think it's very foreboding, and it sort of sets you up for the second track very well, which is The Other Black Dog.
The Other Black Dog, yeah.
This song literally sounds like a chase sequence. It's got this ascending chord progression that gives it a real sense of urgency, and his delivery is really sort of frantic as well. Like I'm just picturing like a sort of predator-prey dynamic between him and this black dog pursuing him. Yeah.
I really like his rapping. And like his flow is sick on this track.
The chorus has this sort of breathless, menacing, slow down throw that's very controlled. And I think that's one of the strengths of the album. Yeah, this guy has so much range. This guy, he does so much on this album.
And like, singing and rapping, just like so much range in both kind of
within those two things. Yeah,
I got kind of like 90s, like early 2000s Madonna era, like techno pop vibes from the instrumental, which is kind of established in the previous track. The switch down at the end, he's on a come down and like he can't dance no more. Like, you know,
the way I saw it is he's been caught, where it's sort of
can't run away. There's no running away anymore.
Yeah, switches to centerfold.
I thought this was so sleazy.
Really, I think that's part of the point. I think that's part of the point. Yeah. It's like
for sure, but remind me of like Gorillaz, like the Demon Days sound though, not like plastic, like Demon Days Gorillaz sound.
It's definitely got sort of this psychedelic feeling, hasn't it? And I think, like you said, it's very sleazy in his delivery. He's got this sort of drugged out, slurred vocal performance that feels. That at first you think, oh, is he trying to be romantic? But then you're like, no, he's trying to come across as toxic and cloying, just like depression would appear to be. He's singing it from the perspective of the black dog, and like I think he sort of conveys that perfectly, where it comes across like this disgusting lover that's just trying to get in with you. He has lines like put your fangs into your dome. It's very, he's sort of creating it almost as a romantic character, not just a villain, if you get what I mean.
And saying all this toxic stuff, like someone would say, like, I'm here for you, etc., etc.
Almost abusive relationship that he's sort of setting up. So waiting on ya. Thematically, I feel like it's the same thing but dialed up. But it feels less sleazy and more romantic, if you feel what I mean.
Oh, bro, the jazzy R&B vibe, defo, less sleazy and more just like vibes.
Bro, but this might be my favorite track. This might be my favorite track. I fucking love this.
I've highlighted it green.
Is it?
I was like, yes.
Very good. So sexy, man.
It's smooth, mate. It's smooth and sexy.
And his voice, it's got this deep, rich timbre to it. It's just like, I don't know how he does it. He's just like, it's just so rich, his voice. And then he switches to this falsetto for this chorus. It seems like two different people singing. He's got so much range, but he is his own feature on this track.
I actually had to double check if someone else was mentioned on the track, and I was just like, oh no, okay, just him. But even though it's like the switch up in sound gives it like this less sleazy feel. When you listen to the lyric, you still get the notes of a possessive relationship, hints of like pleasure. I want you, all of you. You only need me.
And I think
kind of like you don't need anyone else.
Yeah, I think it's, if anything, it shows where the first track came across as a bit psychedelic and sleazy and disorienting. This one comes across a lot more smooth and a lot easier to digest, a lot more dreamy. It's got these like dreamy phone bleeps that just sort of float in the back. To me, it felt like he was sort of succumbing. You know what? Doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah.
This thing that's waiting on me, that's prowling. I'm like, okay.
Maybe it's actually what I need. Okay, I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with it. Okay. Yeah. But then as you get to the end of the track, everything just like slows down.
It's becoming the comfortable option. It's becoming the easier option. It seems like the option that's there for you rather than what's right for you.
I like the way it plays itself out at the end. The next track, Don't Need You, mate. I've highlighted this track green. Wait, is this true? I don't like you. I'm like, that's sick.
It's very sort of shouty, isn't it? It's just sort of it's kind of bedroom pop.
It's like band music.
It's like a dance number. It's a fully dance number. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just like something you can like just chant and just like not rave to, but just like
it's like the Miss Independent. It's like the Miss Independent of the track list. It's like, I don't need you. Wait. So Drown is very synth rock. It's very Prince. It's very new wave.
Early 2000s, mate. Got a very early 2000s sound to it.
I thought it was more new wave. I thought it was more like 80s. It's got the only feature of the whole album, and I think he earns his place. He sounds like nothing else on the album. It's sort of like this country soaring ballad vocals.
I forgot about the feature. I was just like
okay, fair enough. I guess it didn't make an impression.
I did like, in comparison to the breadth of the project, I'm just like, the feature's like meaningless.
Fair enough. I like these sort of wonky synth arpeggios that come in and out, and coupled with this Kieran J. Callahan's feature, it gives the track a really epic feel. But I really like the concept of the track of internal struggle, where he's like, you know what, I need to separate myself from this thing. It isn't my identity. It's not who I am. And there's this refrain, which is, "You've got to let me drown." I found that such an earworm hook. Like,
how did you break that down? Like, what do you think it meant?
At first, when I heard it, I thought it was him internally saying to himself, "Nah, just let me drown. Fuck this. Take me back to the last track." Yeah. But now, I don't know. Now I sort of think, oh, maybe it's the depression taunting him almost, being like, "You've got to let me drown. Like, you've got to kill me if you." So I don't know. I think
get rid of me. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only one way to get rid of me.
Yeah. So it's a very nice track that follows on this sort of internal struggle that he started up in the last track.
Gold Chains. I think this is my favorite track.
This track, this is great. I really like.
I fuck with this instrumental, bro. Like, I fuck with it so hard.
It's this slow.
This instrumental is sick.
I love the chord progression. It's so soothing. He uses his falsetto on this track, but it's somehow different to all the other falsettos. It's a lot more vulnerable. It just feels a lot more gentle than the other. Like, the other falsettos felt a bit more, I don't know, dreamy and maybe romantic. This feels almost broken and tender.
I think that's where he is.
Yeah,
that's the kind of mindset he's in at this point in the album, though. He's gone through so much. He's gone through like a bloody roller coaster of emotions, and that's where he is, right?
Yeah, and I like how he flips this trope of a lot of hip hop and rap music of gold chains and materialism, and how he's trying to use his materialism to escape his depression and failing, essentially.
Yeah, he's calling out the materialistic culture of our day and age. People wear these gold chains. People wear this kind of audacious kind of materialistic things to be like, "Hey, look at me, I'm okay." But it's actually just like imprisoning themselves.
I think that's a very good segue into the next track, because "Smiling with No Teeth," which is the title track, is basically that mentality. It's like you're smiling, but you've got no teeth on. The album cover is just him with grills to show like, oh, everything's okay, but I've actually got gold grills, whereas in reality, I've got nothing underneath them.
For like the kind of title track, I didn't think it was all of that.
I think this is, for me, the first time the album stumbles a little bit.
Second time for me, but yeah.
Yeah. I like the concept of sort of glorifying sadness and fetishizing it. Like how...
I like the refrain, yeah. We want good times without the bad kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. How it's like cool and edgy to be depressed, and how it sort of almost trivializes mental health. And although I do like how it comes together eventually into this almost group vocal gospel choir delivery at the end, I think it just takes a bit too long to get there. It feels a bit aimless, and the verses that sort of basically highlight to you it's just him talking about the themes of the album kind of came off a little overindulgent to me. I feel like this is an instance where the concept of the album takes priority over the track itself. It just feels like a big interlude to me, like a really big interlude. We have a nice payoff at the end, but it's given us a title track. I kind of am surprised at how it's one of the weakest songs on the album.
That is a fitting description, because post this track, he introduces this second dynamic.
Yeah, and I think he did mean to use it as like a transition, but I think he kind of got carried away with it. What I mean. Yeah.
The second dynamic being the introduction of like fighting racism and stuff like that. So.
And that's interesting, because he actually says he got called a black dog when he was growing up as a kid.
Oh, no way. Mm-hmm.
So that's, again, it's just another layer to that metaphor for him, at least.
I don't see color the next track. I really like the tribal feel in this track.
It has this pounding dynamic. Yeah, and has this pounding vocal sample that almost sounds like a chant, doesn't it? Which I think plays off that tribal percussion. That it's a lot more stripped back than the sort of syrupy jams of
very
earlier part. Yeah, raw's perfect way to describe it. The last time you heard this kind of tense energy is on the other Black Dog. Oh shit, maybe that's why he called it that. Okay. He's introducing another character. I really think the reason he does this is because he wants to give more attention to the vocals and the lines he's saying. So one of the lines I really like are, but sometimes your actions represent a whole race. It's hard to move different when your face is our face. And then he changes that to when your face is their face, to show this sort of us versus them mentality, I think.
So introducing the second dynamic of fighting racism, and like he's established it in this track. And then it goes to the next track, Black Dogs, where it's just like, let's pick up arms. It's more aggressive. It's very punky. It's like,
it's very punk rock.
Let's do something about it.
I think it almost shows a sort of paranoid mind state that he's in. Because if you look at some of the lyrics, they're like almost he's taking the piss, but all these microaggressions bottle up to become a mega aggression. And like, for example, hey, you look like Will Smith from afar. Hearing stuff like that has sort of on the background of this really howling, raging soundtrack, I think it sort of drives home this paranoid mentality he's been driven to.
It's these like little things though, just like every day, where it's just like these little kind of glimpses of like racism, which kind of like come off these like harmless comments, but over time, more of these kind of the compounding effect occurs, where it's just like, I'm not going to, it becomes the small statement becomes something bigger in itself.
Yeah. And then it goes into whip cracker.
Thumping intro, bro. Sprinkles of like light keys in the background, which kind of like contrast.
It's very stripped back, isn't it? Yeah.
It's like, I like it. Creates this weird passive aggressive vibe.
And I think, he's sort of playing into this caricature in a satirical way, where he's sort of like, you know what? Maybe I am this horrible monster you make me seem like. But I really like the switch up as well, halfway through there, where the track just sort of blossoms into this synth rock head
groovy
bobbing
guitar, mate.
Yeah. It's very Prince to me.
The drop on this track, such a disco drop.
Cool moment.
I got a very Thundercat vibe from it at the end.
Okay.
I really dig the outro.
Next is Easy. What did you think of this one?
It's pretty low key. I didn't get much from this track.
Yeah, I think this is
lesser of the.
I think it's one of the weaker tracks on the list. For me, I like the sort of dreamy, trancey feel, but it just doesn't come across as clear as some of the other tracks. Maybe just because the last three tracks are so direct. This comes a bit cryptic, but also it comes a bit underbaked.
This one, Song About Fishing.
Song About Fishing is one of the weirdest tracks on here, and I really like it. It's
like this campfire, like kumbaya kind of song.
Yeah, it's very folky. So it's like this slow, waltzy bad. So he's fishing even though he knows the lake has no fish in it, and about how he gets up every day and still goes about doing it. And I think that is a nice metaphor for sort of dealing with depression, like just trying to get through each day and trying to get through it. I really like the pitched up refrain, backing vocals that sing with him. I don't think it's him. Like it's definitely a woman singing that sings alongside him at the end, and it builds up. And I don't know,
for sure.
It just feels like a very spiritual, wholesome song about sort of perseverance and carrying on in the face of these poisons that he's encountering in his life. I think it does lead quite nicely into the next track as well. No looking back in terms of thematically.
Yeah. In terms of like, he's got this routine now, he's got his kind of coping mechanism, and he's kind of trying to end this relationship he has with the black dog. He gave me like a very end, like a early 2000s, like, and it's the end of a movie, guys. The credits are rolling.
No looking back. Yeah. This felt like a very triumphant victory song. So I made it, guys. I made it, guys.
Come on. we did it. We did it. Yeah.
And like it has this sort of
freeze frame as the credits roll down.
Yeah, literally just there like that. But yeah, I think the sort of spiritual vibe continues, and it's almost very gospel. It's got these church organ keys, very spiritual in the way he's expressing the gratitude for his journey. Like he's saying, now I finally see myself when I think of love. And it's a very heartwarming song, and it's got this majestic uplifting trumpets that really enrich the song at the end, and it is sort of like
slow motion run.
Perfect. Yeah, it's very Hollywood. Yeah. It's like, but when I first listened to it, I was all like, this is a bit OTT.
It's a bit corny.
I think you thought that too, because then the next track is just like, or is it though?
Setting up the sequel, mate.
Yeah, and then like
setting up the sequel.
They like open their eye, or like something shakes. Comes out of the ground. I don't know. It would feel fake after this huge narrative he's built to just go like, we fixed.
I'm better now.
We fixed racism,
guys.
We
fixed depression, guys.
We fixed depression. It's literally nice work.
We fixed depression and racism, guys.
All within 58 minutes. It's not as easy of, all right, you go through some struggle and you're done. It's almost never ending. It's always cyclical.
I cry calling back to you. it's like he can't take the breakup, and depression is his safe space kind of thing.
Yeah, crawling back.
It's kind of like spiraling back into hurt.
Yeah, and it's got these intoxicating group vocals over a funk beat. Like it's like calls back to the first half of the album where there's a lot funkier instrumentals. It's got these really visceral drums, and I really like this psychedelic vocoder effect that he sort of harmonized with. It's almost like the Black Dog like calling from the abyss, and then him shouting over it, and then they just sort of coalesce. And it just fades out. Like
Venom symbiote kind of.
Yeah, it's like a yin yang thing.
They need each other keeping in balance in a weird way.
Yeah, or that's how he feels. Obviously, that's not true.
That's not the case.
But that's the cycle he's stuck in. Yeah.
So favorite track for me is Gold Chains. So that's like my most favorite. And then I Don't Need You, I'm Waiting on Ya.
I liked The Other Black Dog. Waiting on Ya is great. Gold Chains, Brown. Song about fishing. I am naming a lot of the songs on the album.
So I really dig the narrative he's tried to build in this album. He's chosen really big shoes to fill, and he does stumble across them. Like, I really didn't like the first track. I didn't like how it started, and I think that set the tone of the album for me. I was like expecting it to be kind of this one way, but then it really surprised me because it didn't. The first track has got nothing to do with the rest of the album in terms of sonic register. But there are bits where I just felt like the track could have been shorter. So it's a weird journey for me. There are bits I love, and there are bits where I just don't like it. So for that reason, I'm gonna give it a 6.5 because it's something I wouldn't revisit as a whole. If I was gonna revisit it, I'd kind of skip the first 2 tracks.
I loved this shit. I think it's amazing that he's. First album, he's gone this hard. He's gone this big, and like he says, he takes inspiration from these people like Tyler the Creator and Kanye. And honestly, I think he's cut from the same cloth. Personally, I think he not easy only will be there. I think he's well on his way. The concept is great, and I love how he sort of ties in his personal experiences with depression and racism. And such a blend of genres as well, from the sort of funk and neo soul to the punk rock to the R&B, and of course all the sort of hip hop vibes that come, and it all melds together in kind of this messy but also very focused way. Within each song, every song feels polished, every song feels on point, and very deliberate. I would say that it does stumble under the weight of its ambition sometimes, and like it could. I feel like as he grows and becomes more focused and becomes a more experienced artist, like his concepts have become a bit tighter. But this is amazing. I think this is a 9 out of 10 for me.
I definitely agree on the thought panel. He's just like, there's so much more to come from him.